The Africa Export-Import Bank, popularly known as Afreximbank, is headquartered here in the Egyptian capital of Cairo. It's a for-profit organisation that offers loans and other means of financial support to governments, large corporates and financial institutions. And its mission is simple. The Africa Export-Import Bank seeks to become the trade finance institute for the entire African continent. It's been in operation since 1993, and in those nearly 3 decades, it's worked to not only increase Africa's share of global trade, but also chip away at a colonial legacy that has kept many African countries from trusting and trading with each other. Our sit-down discussion with the president and chairman of the board of directors at Afreximbank, Professor Benedict Oke-Orama, began with the effort to reverse engineer colonial planning that has kept Africa far below its developmental potential.
Colonialism turned the continent into 55 atomistic, dissected economies. Some of them are too small that even certain companies ignore them, that they're not of size. That heritage, the colonial heritage, I'll call it that, also brought other difficulties. We do not deal with ourselves. Africans hardly see an African country as a market. Instead, they look out to very, very far lands. That colonial legacy has left us after 60 years as producers and exporters of commodities. And when you do that, you export jobs. You export jobs in a situation where you have the fastest growing population with abundance of the youth. You have this abundant supply of labor. You are producing commodities that will not create any job. Rather, you create a job elsewhere where you export those commodities. And that's why we found ourselves in a ridiculous situation where a particular country exports outside Africa something labor imports from outside Africa at a much higher cost. I'll give you an example. Ethiopia imports certain kinds of leather they're using for their shoe industry. That same kind of leather they import at a much higher cost, at a very high cost, is the same type of leather that Burundi, just not far from them, exports to the outside world. And you have this in many situations. Nigeria, for example, if you go and look at the statistics for technically specified rubber, Côte d'Ivoire exports this in abundance to so many parts of the world. Nigeria imports the same thing from Asia.
Afreximbank has not been exempt from the realities of the COVID-19 pandemic. Challenges are inevitable, but the bank says it entered the pandemic period with cash balances of $3.1 billion and has maintained a healthy cash position with its liquidity coverage ratio in excess of its 110% minimum threshold. It's rolled out billions of dollars to help member countries manage the financial, economic, and health shocks related to the pandemic. In addition to that financial support, there's also the issue of COVID-19 vaccines. While countries around the world roll out their programs and stockpile vaccines in excess numbers, questions have continued to be raised over when Africa will secure orders to vaccinate its own populations and, most importantly, how it's going to be paid for.
Afreximbank is leading the effort on the financing side. And we're now putting in place, we're going through the final phases of our approvals, a $2 billion facility. Because we've been able now to get vaccines up to 270 million doses. We've received indications from Pfizer, from Oxford AstraZeneca, through Serum Institute, the manufacturer in India, and Johnson & Johnson, who we believe their vaccines will be hopefully approved in the next couple of weeks for $270 million. The good thing is that the Johnson & Johnson, if approved, will be good because some of it will be produced in South Africa. Allocation has been done by way of population. The total cost of the vaccines is about $1.8 billion. So we will be subject to approvals of our board of directors, which we expect to get in the next few days. We will be giving the commitments to each of those manufacturers. Now, if you go to the African Medical Supplies platform, you will see a page there that will enable you as a country to indicate your demand through pre-orders. It is these pre-orders that we will aggregate and know that these are the firm orders which we will commit to. It is these people that will be able to allocate the available vaccines. If we don't get the pre-orders within the 2-week period, we will reallocate what had not been taken up to other countries. But the good thing is that as we speak, I think more than 15 countries have made their pre-orders. I'm sure more have done because it changes over time. So we are hoping that we would be able to begin to see vaccines in some scale from March. I think there are some that may come in February or March, but we have to also deal with readiness.
The Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement seeks to bring African countries together in the interest of trade. It's a one-stop shop that boasts a digital payment platform as well as the monitoring and elimination of non-tariff barriers.
It's a process. We should be patient. The AFCFTA implementation will come with challenges. But we should not be daunted by the challenges. We should expect them. But we must approach all of them with a positive spirit to find solutions. Market women, the SMEs, every African, not to dwell in complaints, but to try to find solutions.
To many, it's been touted as a blessing, but to some countries, most especially those reliant on revenues from tariffs, it could be seen as more of a curse. Nevertheless, the Africa Export-Import Bank are committed to this agreement and are steadfast in the belief that it will bring prosperity to Africa and to Africans themselves. Adefemi Akinsanya, Arise News at the Africa Export-Import Bank, Cairo.